Tyler shoved my graduation cake right off the table, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Eat it off the ground, Aunt Jessica. College is for people who can't get real jobs anyway." The whole family laughed. That's when I knew exactly what I had to do to them. I'm Jessica Rivera, 28 years old, and that cake was supposed to celebrate finishing my MBA while working full-time as a marketing coordinator at TechFlow Solutions in Seattle. 2 years of night classes, $45,000 in student loans, and finally proving that the first person in our family could make it through graduate school. Instead, my achievement was now decorating our backyard patio in Boise, frosting splattered across the concrete, candles rolling under people's feet. The party had started well enough. Mom Patricia had actually made my favorite tres leches cake and invited half the neighborhood. For about 10 minutes, I thought maybe this time would be different. Maybe they'd actually be proud of me instead of treating my education like some expensive hobby I'd picked up. Then Tyler Rivera Brooks, my 10-year-old nephew, started his performance. "Mom says Jessica spent all that money on school just to get a fancy paper," he announced to anyone who'd listen. My sister Amanda, 6 months pregnant and glowing in her new maternity dress, just smiled behind her lemonade glass. She didn't tell him to stop. Neither did Mom. Even my dad Miguel just sat there scrolling through his phone like nothing was happening. "Amanda's giving us grandchildren," Mom said to Mrs. Henderson from next door, her voice carrying across the entire patio. "That's what really matters. Real achievement, you know. This MBA thing is nice, I guess, but when is Jessica going to settle down like her sister?" I'd heard variations of this speech my entire life. Amanda was 2 years younger but had always been the golden child. She got married at 23 to Brandon Brooks, a contractor who made decent money. Now she was pregnant with their second kid, living the life Mom understood and approved of. Meanwhile, I was the family weirdo who chose career over marriage, student loans over babies, Seattle over staying home in Boise. Here's the part that really burned me up. I'd been financially supporting them for 18 months straight. Amanda's SUV payment came directly out of my checking account every month, for $20 that I'd been covering because I co-signed the loan when her credit was garbage. I'd been paying for the family's health insurance through my company plan, another $280 monthly, plus the $15,000 I'd contributed to their so-called emergency fund over the past year and a half when Dad had been between construction jobs. Let me break that down for you. 18 months of car payments, $70 to $60, health insurance, $5 to $40, emergency fund, $15,000, total $27,600 I'd given them while getting zero respect in return. "You make good money at that tech job," Amanda always said when I questioned the arrangements. "We're barely surviving with the baby coming. Family helps family, right? Don't be selfish." But standing there watching Tyler grind cake frosting into the concrete with his sneaker while everyone laughed at my expense, something inside me finally snapped. This wasn't family helping family. This was me being the family ATM while getting treated like the black sheep for having ambitions beyond their backyard barbecues. "You're being too dramatic over some cake," Mom said when she noticed my face getting red. "Tyler's just being a kid." "Don't be so sensitive, Jessica." Sensitive, that word had been following me around like a bad smell my entire life. Sensitive when I cried about not making cheerleading in high school because I was too busy working at Dairy Queen to afford the camps the other girls attended. Sensitive when I got upset about them missing my college graduation because Amanda had a dentist appointment that apparently couldn't be rescheduled. Sensitive when I mentioned feeling left out of family group chats about vacation plans I wasn't invited to but was somehow expected to help pay for. I stared at that cake on the ground, white frosting mixed with dirt and grass, and realized it looked exactly like how I felt in this family. Something nice that had been thrown away and stepped on. "College is for people who can't do real work," Tyler repeated, louder this time, making sure everyone heard his little comedy routine. That's what Mom told Dad last week when Jessica was bragging about her grades. More laughter. Even Mrs. Henderson chuckled, probably thinking this was all harmless family teasing instead of what it actually was. Systematic humiliation disguised as love. I set down the cake server I'd been holding, untied the apron I'd put on to help serve dessert, and walked toward the sliding door. Every step felt like I was walking through quicksand. Behind me, I could hear Tyler still cracking jokes about my useless degree while the adults encouraged him with their laughter. "Where are you going?" Amanda called out, finally speaking up now that I was leaving. "We haven't even done presents yet." Presents? Right, I'd bought her a $200 baby monitor from her registry and gotten a $15 Target gift card in return. The same gift card she'd probably grabbed from the grocery store checkout lane that morning while buying diapers. I didn't answer her. I just grabbed my purse from the kitchen counter and walked straight out the front door. For the first time in years, I didn't say goodbye to everyone individually. I didn't help clean up the party mess. I didn't make sure Mom had enough help with the dishes or that Dad got the folding chairs put away properly. I just left. For the first time in my adult life, I walked away from a family gathering without cleaning up after everyone else. The drive back to Seattle took 5 hours on I-84, and somewhere around mile marker 47, my phone started buzzing like an angry wasp. Text after text from Mom, each one more dramatic than the last. You embarrassed us in front of the neighbors. Very immature behavior. Tyler is just a child. You should know better than to take it personally. Amanda is crying because you ruined her good mood. She's pregnant, Jessica. Your father is disappointed in how you acted. And then, at 11:47 p.m., the final text that made my stomach drop. We've decided it's best if you stay away from family events until you can learn to act like an adult. Don't contact us until you're ready to apologize. I sat in my apartment parking garage for 20 minutes staring at that message. 3 years of paying their bills, covering their emergencies, being available whenever they needed money or help. And this was my reward, banishment because I didn't laugh when their kid humiliated me at my own graduation party. That's when I remembered something my therapist, Dr. Sarah Martinez, had told me during one of our sessions 6 months earlier. I'd started seeing her to deal with the imposter syndrome at work. Being the only woman on my marketing team at a tech startup was hard enough, without constantly feeling like I didn't deserve to be there. But our conversations kept circling back to my family dynamics. Jessica, she'd said, leaning forward in that kind but direct way of hers, you can't change how they treat you, but you can change how much access they have to your resources, financial, emotional, and otherwise. At the time, I'd nodded and said I understood, but I hadn't really gotten it. Now, sitting in my car at midnight, reading that dismissive text from Mom, it hit me like a lightning bolt. They wanted me gone. Fine. But this time they were going to feel exactly what my absence meant to their bank accounts. I slept terribly that night, tossing and turning, replaying every moment of the party. But when I woke up Monday morning, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Clarity. Crystal clear, laser-focused clarity about what needed to happen next. I called in sick to work and drove straight to Pioneer Bank downtown. I'd done my research on Sunday night, printing out loan documents and gathering every piece of paperwork I could find. I asked the receptionist to speak with someone about removing myself from co-sign loans. Marcus Rodriguez, the loan officer, was incredibly professional when I explained the situation. He was probably around 40, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and the demeanor of someone who'd seen this exact scenario play out countless times before. This happens more often than you'd think, he said gently, gesturing for me to sit down in his office. Family members often exploit the financial success of relatives who feel obligated to help due to guilt or manipulation. He pulled up my account on his computer, scrolling through screens of data I'd never seen before. I see you've been making the payments on both the vehicle loan and what looks like mortgage assistance for 18 months. Have you ever actually lived at the property or driven the vehicle in question? Never. I live here in Seattle. They're in Boise. I just signed the papers to help their credit scores. And do you have any ownership stake in either asset? Your name on the title or deed? None whatsoever. I was just trying to help family. He nodded, the expression on his face telling me he'd heard this exact story 100 times before. We can begin the liability release process immediately. Since you have no ownership interest and can prove you've been making payments without benefiting from the assets, the bank will likely approve your release within 10 business days. Marcus slid a stack of paperwork across his desk. These forms will remove you from both loans. I have to warn you, once we process this, your family will be notified that they're responsible for the full payments going forward. Are you prepared for that conversation? Absolutely. Signing those papers felt like breathing oxygen for the first time in months. Each signature was me taking back a piece of my life I'd given away in the name of family loyalty that apparently only flowed in one direction. While I was there, Marcus helped me with one more crucial step. I noticed you also have a joint savings account linked to these family members. The emergency fund. That's my money. Every penny of that $15,000 came from my paychecks. We can transfer that back to your personal account today. Since you're the primary contributor and it's not tied to any collateral, it's a straightforward process. Watching $15,000 move back into my personal checking account felt surreal. Money I'd been setting aside from every paycheck while eating ramen noodles and wearing the same 3 work blazers for 2 years straight. One more thing, I said before leaving. I need to remove them from my health insurance plan through my employer. Your HR department can handle that. Just tell them you need to remove dependents due to change in family status. That afternoon, I called TechFlow's benefits coordinator, Sarah Kim, who'd always been super helpful with employee questions. Hey Jessica, what can I help you with? I need to remove my parents and sister from my health coverage effective immediately. Sure thing. Just need you to confirm you understand they'll lose coverage at the end of this month. I understand completely. Okay, I'll process that today. The premium reduction will show up in your next paycheck. Looks like that'll save you about $280 monthly. For the next week, my phone became a war zone. 127 missed calls from various family members and numbers I didn't recognize. The family group chat that Amanda had created months earlier exploded into a wall of increasingly frantic messages. The bank called about the car loan. What did you do? Our insurance got cancelled. Fix this immediately. You're destroying this family over a stupid cake. How could you steal our emergency fund money? Dad's blood pressure is through the roof because of your selfishness. Steal. That word jumped out at me like a neon sign. I'd contributed every single penny of that emergency fund myself, but somehow taking back my own money was stealing. I didn't respond to any of their messages. Not one. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I focused entirely on myself and my own life. The first thing I noticed was how much mental energy I suddenly had available. Without the constant stress of family drama and financial pressure, I could actually concentrate at work. I signed up for that digital marketing certification course I'd been putting off for months because I couldn't afford the $800 fee. I enrolled in a leadership workshop. I even bought some decent work clothes instead of rotating the same 3 blazers I'd been wearing for 2 years. My manager, Lisa Park, noticed the difference almost immediately during our weekly one-on-one meeting. You seem more focused lately, she said, looking over my campaign metrics on her laptop. Your conversion rates are up 23% this month and the client feedback has been outstanding. Whatever you're doing differently, keep it up. Thanks, Lisa. I've been able to concentrate better lately. Less distractions at home. Well, it shows. I'm putting you in for the senior marketing coordinator position that's opening up next quarter. You've earned it. A promotion. Something I'd been working toward for 18 months but never quite felt ready for because I was always stressed about money and family emergencies. Now suddenly it felt within reach because I wasn't constantly drained by people who took my support for granted. Meanwhile, the family situation was escalating in ways I hadn't expected. On Thursday evening, exactly 1 week after I'd signed those bank papers, there was a knock on my apartment door. Not a polite knock. Aggressive, demanding pounding that echoed through my small space and probably bothered my neighbors. I checked the peephole and saw Mom and Amanda standing in the hallway, both looking furious. Mom was wearing her "I'm about to lecture someone" face, arms folded tightly across her chest. Amanda looked like she'd been crying, her mascara slightly smudged. Jessica, open this door right now. Mom shouted loud enough for the whole floor to hear. We drove 5 hours to talk about what you've done to this family. I didn't open it. Instead, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I have 2 people outside my apartment who are refusing to leave after being asked. They're family members, but they're trespassing and I'd like them removed from the property. Are you in immediate physical danger? Not physically, but they're harassing me and I've asked them to leave multiple times via text message. I have documentation of that. Officers are on their way. Stay inside until they arrive. Through the door, I could hear Mom's voice getting higher and more hysterical. We know you're in there, Jessica. This is ridiculous behavior over a stupid cake. You're destroying this family's credit and Amanda might lose her car. The bank called. About the emergency fund. Amanda chimed in, her voice breaking. You took our safety net. What if something happens to the baby? Our safety net. The money I'd saved from my own paychecks while they spent freely, knowing I'd always be there to catch them when they fell. 2 police officers arrived within 15 minutes. I watched through the peephole as they approached Mom and Amanda with professional calm. One was a woman about my age, the other an older man who looked like he'd dealt with family disputes before. Ma'am, we got a call about a disturbance, the female officer said. Can you tell me what's going on here? Mom immediately launched into her victim narrative. This is my daughter. She stole our money and ruined our credit. She's having some kind of breakdown over nothing. I have rights as her mother. Actually, ma'am, she's an adult with her own residence. If she's asked you to leave, you need to leave. This is insane, Amanda said, her voice getting shrill. She's being vindictive because my son made a joke about her precious degree. Now our car might get repossessed and my fiancé is talking about leaving me because of the credit damage. The male officer held up a hand. I understand you're upset, but this is private property. The conversation ends here. She's destroying her own family. Mom shouted as they started walking toward the stairwell. Blood doesn't just disappear because you're having a tantrum, Jessica. I waited until their voices faded completely before opening my door. The female officer had left her business card taped to my doorframe. If they return, call immediately. You did the right thing establishing boundaries. This happens more than you'd think. Boundaries. Such a simple word for something that had taken me 28 years to learn how to build. Over the next few weeks, things got ugly on social media. Mom posted a long Facebook rant about ungrateful children who abandon family in their time of need. The post got 47 comments from relatives, neighbors, and family friends, most of them expressing shock and disappointment in me. So sad when kids forget everything their parents did for them. I heard she used family money to buy that fancy apartment in Seattle. Poor Patricia, after all she's sacrificed. Amanda shared the post with crying emojis and added her own commentary about how I was punishing an innocent child for Tyler's behavior. Cousins I barely talked to started liking and commenting, creating this whole narrative about how I was the heartless daughter who'd abandoned her struggling family. I didn't engage. I changed my privacy settings, unfollowed them all, and kept living my life. Dr. Martinez had taught me that when people are used to your dysfunction, your health will look like rebellion to them. The promotion came through in August, exactly as Lisa had promised. Senior marketing coordinator with a $12,000 salary bump. I used part of the extra money to finally get a decent couch and took a weekend trip to Portland with my colleague Elena Rodriguez, who'd become my closest friend during all this family drama. I'm proud of you, Elena said over coffee at Powell's bookstore, surrounded by towers of books and the kind of intellectual atmosphere my family would have mocked. It took real courage to cut them off financially. Sometimes I feel guilty about it, I admitted. Like maybe I'm being too harsh. Why? Because you stopped letting them use you as a bank while treating you like garbage. Jessica, healthy families don't work that way. They don't humiliate you and then expect you to pay their bills. When she put it that way, it sounded pretty straightforward. But guilt is a powerful thing, especially when you've been trained your whole life to believe that love means accepting whatever treatment people decide to give you. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Tyler. Mom gave me your number. I'm sorry I said those mean things about your cake and your school. Can you please help with the car payment? Mom is crying every day, a 10-year-old kid manipulated into being the family's emotional messenger. That broke my heart more than anything else they'd done. I stared at Tyler's text for a long time. A 10-year-old kid being used as an emotional weapon by adults who should know better. It was heartbreaking, but it also showed me exactly how desperate they'd become. I didn't reply to Tyler. Instead, I screenshot the message and sent it to Dr. Martinez with a note. Is it normal for families to use children as guilt messengers? Her response came back within an hour. Unfortunately, yes. It's a manipulation tactic called triangulation. Stay strong in your boundaries. September rolled around, and life started to feel surprisingly normal. Without that constant $700 monthly drain on my budget, I could actually save money for the first time since college. I opened a high-yield savings account and started putting away $800 every month. I bought a gym membership. I took a weekend pottery class just because it seemed fun. My friend Elena and I started having regular Friday night dinners, sometimes at nice restaurants I could never afford before. During one of these dinners at a cozy Italian place in Capitol Hill, she asked me something that really made me think. Do you miss them? Your family, I mean. I miss the idea of them, I said, twirling pasta around my fork. I miss having a family that would actually celebrate my achievements instead of making fun of them. But do I miss the actual people who treated me like an ATM while mocking my education? No, I don't miss that at all. That's healthy, Elena said. You're grieving the family you deserved, not the one you actually had. In October, my phone lit up with a message from Amanda. I'm sorry for everything that happened. No excuses, no explanations. Just sorry. 6 words. After months of angry texts, social media drama, and using a child to guilt-trip me, she sent 6 words. I read it several times, waiting for the follow-up message that would ask for money or demand I fix their problems, but nothing else came. Just those 6 words floating on my phone screen. Part of me wanted to respond immediately, to rebuild the bridge I'd burned. The people-pleaser in me whispered that this was my chance to be the bigger person, to forgive and forget like a good daughter should. But a bigger part of me, the part that had grown stronger over these past few months, knew better. Forgiveness didn't necessarily mean going back to the way things were. Sometimes it meant accepting what happened and choosing to move forward without that toxicity in your life. I didn't reply. Not that day, not that week. Maybe not ever. Some doors, once closed, need to stay that way for your own protection. November brought the promotion I'd been working toward. The title came with real responsibilities, managing 2 junior coordinators and leading client strategy meetings. Lisa pulled me aside after my first big presentation to the C-suite. "You know what I noticed about your work lately," she said. "You have this confidence now that you didn't have before. You speak up in meetings, you advocate for your ideas, and clients respond to that energy." She was right. Somewhere between cutting off my family's access to my bank account and learning to set boundaries, I'd found my voice in other areas of life too. I wasn't constantly second-guessing myself or apologizing for taking up space. During my December review, I got another salary bump, $8,000 this time, and a note in my file about exceptional growth in leadership capabilities. The holidays were strange. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't stress about buying presents I couldn't afford or traveling to Boise for awkward family dinners. Instead, Elena and I threw a Friendsgiving potluck in my apartment. 8 people from work and my pottery class eating good food and actually enjoying each other's company. "This is what healthy relationships look like," I told Elena as we cleaned up afterward. "People who actually want to be around each other." In January, almost a year after the cake incident, I got a LinkedIn message from Tyler. He was 11 now, and somehow he'd found me on social media. "Aunt Jessica, I know I was mean about your graduation. Mom explained that you went to college and that's actually really cool. I'm sorry I said those things about your cake and your degree. I don't really understand why everyone is mad, but I miss you." This message hit differently than the guilt trip text from months earlier. This felt like an actual kid expressing genuine feelings, not a coached manipulation. I thought about it for 3 days before responding. "Tyler, thank you for apologizing. That means a lot to me. I hope you know that pursuing education is something to be proud of, whether it's finishing high school or going to college or learning any new skill. You're a smart kid, and I want you to remember that learning is never something to make fun of." I didn't say anything about seeing him again or about the family situation. Some boundaries need to be maintained even when accepting an apology. These days, my student loan payments are manageable because I'm not supporting 3 other people. I'm saving for a house down payment. I'm taking rock climbing classes on weekends and learning Spanish through an app. I'm dating someone I met at a marketing conference who thinks my MBA is impressive, not embarrassing. The emergency fund I used to contribute to for my family, it's now my actual emergency fund. The health insurance money goes toward therapy sessions with Dr. Martinez, who's helped me understand that self-care isn't selfish. 6 months ago, I saw Amanda's Instagram story, Tyler's 12th birthday party. I was cropped out of the old family photos in the background, but I could see a store-bought Costco cake on the table instead of Mom's homemade tres leches. I smiled and closed the app. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just living well and letting other people deal with the consequences of their own choices. My name is Jessica Rivera. I'm 29 years old, and I finally learned that family isn't supposed to cost you your dignity. And sometimes the best lesson you can teach people is that their actions have consequences, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. The cake might have ended up on the ground that day, but I didn't have to eat it, and neither do you.